Council will come to order. Clerk will read the roll.
Freeman, Fusco, Hope, Kamer, Keith, Kilby, Milkovich, Neal, Amobian, Samples, Sims, Somerville, Swirsky.
Thank you. For those who voluntarily wish to do so, would you please stand as we are led in prayer by Pastor Brandon File from Church of Deliverance in Jesus Christ. Following our prayer, we'll be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilman Kamer. Clerk will read the minutes from our previously held meeting.
Here it is. Okay. Minutes from May 21st, 2018. Council convened in regular session at 7 p.m. with President Somerville in the chair. All minutes of the previous regular meeting were approved. All members were present except Kamer and Amobian, later excused. Reading of petitions and communications. Passage of the consent agenda, report of standing and special committees, passage and referral of new ordinances and resolutions, representation from various departments and divisions, public speaking period, no further business. On a motion by Fusco, council adjourned at 7:57 p.m. to reconvene in regular session on June 4th or special call.
Any corrections or additions? Is there a second? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Okay. Petitions and communications, June 4th, 2018. 2018 Neighborhood Partnership Recommendations.
File.
Notice of stock of D2, D2X, D3, D3A liquor permits to Ken Heff Incorporated, doing business as the Main Street Saloon, 1481 to 1487 South Main Street.
Special attention, Councilman Kamer.
Notice of transfer of a D5, D6 liquor permit to Mexico City Restaurant LLC at 778 North Main Street.
Special attention, Councilman Kilby. You have before you the consent agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we have one abstention.
Who abstained?
Who's the abstention? Roll call.
Let me see here. Okay, Freeman. Aye. Fusco. Aye. Hope. Aye. Kamer. Keith? Aye. Kilby? Aye. Milkovich? Aye. Samples? Aye. Neal? Aye. Amobian? Aye. Sims? Aye. Somerville?
Aye.
Swirsky? Aye. Okay. The only abstention I have is Kamer. Correct?
Yep.
Okay.
We'll move into our old business rules. Councilman Keith.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee would like time.
Time will be granted. Planning, Councilman Fusco.
Item on the agenda.
Time will be granted. Public Service, Councilman Keith.
There's an amendment that will be read in. I don't know if you'd like to do that now to this piece that we looked, or wait until new business. It came up today in new business.
Okay, I'll read it.
Okay. I did believe that we're going to take time for a substitute.
Tonight?
Not tonight. So we're going to take time tonight.
Yes, but it'll come up again in new business, is what I'm saying, if you wanted the new piece that just came in to be ready.
Clerk, do you have a new piece?
Yeah, I have the new one from this afternoon.
Not the next new piece is what I'm saying. So I don't, I mean, do it however you want, but
We want to file that.
yeah, I would file.
Okay.
File.
Yeah.
We want to file that.
So then you want me to read? Hasn't been
We won't
read
have to-
in it
And when it comes up in new business,
either. Right.
you can do
right,
what
okay.
the
So we're going to file that item.
committee desires.
Public Safety, Councilman Kamer.
Time.
Okay, time will be granted. We're going to move into our new business, Budget and Finance.
One second, ladies and gentlemen. I'll put this one back in there. Okay. Here we go. Item number 1, offered by Freeman. Ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee in partnership with the United Way of Summit County to apply for grant funding through the Cities for Financial Empowerment Fund to attain the 2018 Financial Empowerment Center Implementation Grant, declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman,
Committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
any objections? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
As we all know, here, June 21st, is going to be the ribbon cutting on the Financial Empowerment Center, and this ordinance will allow the mayor to apply for funding through the Financial Empowerment Center Fund that will be going, I believe, for 2 years. With that, we ask for its passage.
Thank you. The committee's report is favorable. The rules have been suspended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Roll call and final passage. Freeman, Busco, Hope, Kamer, Keith, Kilby, Milkovich, Neal, Mobian, Sample, Sims, Somerville, Swirsky. Item 1A, offered by Freeman. Ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with Summit County and cities of Cuyahoga Falls, Fairlawn, Greene, Stowe for the acquisition, installation, and operation of a consolidated computer-aided dispatch system and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman,
Committee's report is favorable, and we ask for suspension of the rules.
any objections? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
This is something we've been talking about for a long time here in City Council. It's good to see it come to pass. This computer-aided dispatch system, we heard a good presentation today. We're going to be partnering with the county, several other communities, and this will be, I believe, a vital tool. We heard from your folks today, Chief, in responding to people's needs and then coordinating with other communities, and with that, we ask for its passage.
Thank you. The committee's report is favorable. The rules have been suspended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Roll call and final passage. Freeman, Busco, Hope, Kamer, Keith, Kilby, Milkovich, Neal, Amobian, Samples, Sims, Somerville, Swirsky. Item number 2, offered by Fusco. Ordinance amending the zoning map by changing the retail business use district classification U3, H2, A3, use on property located on the east side of South Arlington Street, south of Palmetto Avenue, and west of Madonna Drive, acre parcel number 6763734, and 676755 to a commercial use district classification U4H1A2 use and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
Refer and advertise for public hearing.
This item will be referred.
Okay. Item number 3, offered by Fusco. Ordinance authorizing conditional use to establish a retail and wholesale building material supply sales at 1265 Triplet Boulevard, declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
Refer and advertise for public hearing.
This item will be referred.
Item number 4, offered by Fusco. Ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct an apartment development at the corner of Mull Avenue and Crawford Road, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
Refer and advertise.
This item will be referred.
Item number 5, offered by Fusco. Ordinance accepting a vacation plat for Ellsworth Court south of Kenmore Boulevard, declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
Consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 6, offered by Fusco. Mr. Kamer abstains. Ordinance accepting a dedication plat for Cole Avenue Extension and ask for and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
Consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 7, offered by Fusco. Ordinance approving the sale of city-owned land at 428 and 432 Krause Street, finding the land is not needed for public purpose and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
Refer.
This item will be referred.
Okay, item number 8, offered by Fusco. Ordinance accepting of various right-of-way documents for a certain property described below to facilitate the completion of the Summit 261 Talmadge Avenue project, declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
Both committees favorable, and we are asking for suspension of the rules.
Any objections? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, thank you. This is to clear and extend the right-of-way on Talmadge Avenue. That particular intersection has been kind of a challenge for motorists and pedestrians for the last decades, actually. For years and years, the state of Ohio is coming in. We are asking to acquire the property that's located there. It's also known as the International Institute, and this is the price that was negotiated. And this is the first step in that. And so we'd like to pass this evening so that the project can go forward.
Thank you. The committee's report is favorable. The rules have been suspended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Roll call and final passage. Freeman, Fusco, Hope, Kamer, Key, Kilby, Milkovich, Neal, Amobian, Samples, Sims, Somerville, Swirsky. Item number 9, offered by Fusco. Ordinance approving the sale of vacant city-owned land pursuant to the city's Allot for a Little program in order to facilitate the productive reuse of the property and to reduce the cost of the city and the taxpayers in maintaining vacant lots, determining said property is not needed for public use and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
Consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Okay, item number 10, offered by Fusco. Ordinance approving the sale of city-owned land, determining said property is not needed for public use and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
Consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Okay, item number 11, offered by Fusco and abstentions from Kamer and Neal. Ordinance authorizing the director of the Department of Planning and Urban Development or his designee to enter into contracts with nonprofit neighborhood-based organizations for the provision of services, including, among other things, neighborhood events, community gardens, beautification projects, after-school programs, mentoring programs, authorizing payment therefore and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we go into committee as a whole.
Is there a second? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Okay, the vote to go into committee as a whole.
Yep, and we're going to appoint Councilman Fusco as the chairperson.
Thank you. President. This legislation and the reason and logic for going into committee as a whole was due to the fact that we didn't have a quorum, due to the fact of the abstentions that were required. This particular legislation deals with the what's commonly known as the Neighborhood Partnership Program that we have here in the city of Akron. Last week, we basically received all those agencies that were proposed to be funded. Everyone should have received one of those. In essence, the amount of funding is level from last year, no significant changes from what we understand. And the committee would like to would like council to recommend a consent agenda on this, which would then give council an opportunity to review it even further. Is there any questions or comments from anyone? Okay, very good. Seeing none, I'd like to know if there is a motion for consent agenda from anyone. Is there a second?
Second.
Very good. All those in favor of the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, very good. The ayes have it. I would like to then ask for a motion that we go back into regular council session.
Is there a second? Actually, I think you need a motion first. Is there a motion to go back? Thank you. And a second? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The ayes have it. And we will now have the chairperson give the report.
Thank you. The recommendation of the committee as a whole is for consent agenda.
Okay, so this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Okay. Item number 12, offered by Mayor Horrigan, Councilman Fusco, and Swirsky. This is a substitute offered as an amendment. Ordinance amending and/or supplementing Title 15 Land Usage and enacting Chapter 154 Vacant Commercial and Industrial Buildings of a Code of Ordinance of the City of Akron and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Yes, the request of the committee is refer this item. I'd like to remind all of council that the committee is requesting that we vote on this next week. And if there's any adjustments, this is a substitute. We have made changes based on a lot of discussion from council members, from various organization, trade groups, and if there is any recommendations, we would like to move forward next week. Thank you.
Thank you. This item will be referred.
Okay. Item 13, offered by Keith, ordinance authorizing the purchasing agent or her designee to enter into a contract or contracts after publicly advertising for bids for street tree trimming services, approving specifications therefore, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Keith?
Thank you, Madam President. The committee would like this to be placed on the consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 14, offered by Keith, ordinance levying special assessments for the improvement of certain streets between certain termini of the 2017 Phase 1 Arterial Collector Program by resurfacing such streets with asphaltic concrete 402 and 404, declaring an emergency.
Councilman Keith?
Thank you, Madam President. The committee would also like this one to be placed on the consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Okay, item number 15, offered by Keith, ordinance levying special assessments for the improvement of certain streets between certain termini of the 2017 Phase 1 Residential Resurfacing Program by the resurfacing such streets with asphaltic concrete 402 and 404 and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Keith?
The committee would like this to be placed on the consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 16, offered by Keith, ordinance levying special assessments for the improvement of certain streets between certain termini of the 2017 Phase 1 Unimproved Street Resurfacing Program by treating the surface, therefore, with substances designed to preserve the surface and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Keith?
The committee would also like this item to be placed on the consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 17, offered by Keith, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee after publicly advertising for bids to enter into a contract or contracts for the construction of certain projects on Evans Avenue from Home Avenue 400 feet east of Shreve Road and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Keith?
Madam President, the committee would like this item to also be placed on the consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Okay, item number 18, offered by Keith and Samples, ordinance authorizing the mayor to file application and enter into agreements with the Ohio EPA and Ohio Water Development Authority for a water pollution control fund to fund the construction of the Kelly Conveyance CSO RAC 3 project and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Keith?
Thank you, Madam President. The committee's report is favorable, and we are asking for suspension of the rules.
Any objections? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Okay. This is another one of our projects that we have that as the engineers have worked on, and the good news is with this particular project, the city will save $10 million that we do not need to spend nor borrow for to get this done, and it is testimony to how hard the departments and work together here at the city to try to find ways that we address our combined sewer overflow and do it in such a way that we are sensible and responsible to the need. So with that, we would like this to be passed this evening.
Thank you. The committee's report is favorable. The rules have been suspended. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Roll call and final passage. Freeman, Busco, Hope, Kamer, Keith, Kilby, Milkovich, Neal, Mobian, Samples, Sims, Somerville, Swirsky. Okay, item number 20, offered by Keith. Ordinance authorizes Director of Public
Number
Service.
19.
What's that?
Number 19.
Just trying
Did we get them backwards? Because Chittenden would be
Okay,
Councilwoman Mosley.
19. We didn't do Chittenden yet, right?
Did you already do 19?
No.
Okay.
Offered by, well, no, I'm sorry. All right, let's try this again. Item number 19, offered by Keith. Ordinance authorizes the mayor to file application and enter into agreement with the Ohio EPA and Water Development Authority for a water pollution control loan fund to fund the construction of the Chittenden Green CSO RAC 3 project and declaring an emergency and add samples as well to this piece of legislation.
Councilman Keith?
Thank you. Once again, the committee's report is favorable, and we are requesting suspension of the rules.
Thank you. Any objections? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Okay, I want to thank the mayor personally because in prior years, as we have worked on the CSO project, we have not had the opportunity to make any changes. But with the team that has been devoted to this for so many years and with the mayor's communication skills and foundation that he has developed with the EPA, we tend to find more and more of these coming before us that we are able to change things for the betterment of the city, as well as occasionally, like the last one, saving us some dollars. So with that, the committee would like to see this pass this evening.
Thank you. The committee's report is favorable. The rules have been suspended. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Roll call and final passage. Freeman, Fusco, Hope, Kamer, Keith, Kilby, Milkovich, Neal, Amobian, Sample, Sims, Somerville, Swirsky. Okay, item number 20, offered by Keith. Ordinance authorizes Director of Public Service to enter into a contract or contracts after publicly advertising for bids to furnish engineered wood fiber surfacing at various locations in the city of Akron and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Keith?
Thank you, Madam President. The committee would like this to be placed on the consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Okay, item number 21 offered by Keith. Ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into sponsorship agreements with the Appalachia, Ohio Alliance for using, how do you say that, using your bog project and the Big Darby Creek Conservation Corridor Initiative with the Twin City Water and Sewer District for the Uricksville Lowhead Dam removal and the Stark County Park District for the Nemesilla Creek Reserve Phase 2 and declare an emergency.
Councilman Keith?
Thank you, Madam President. The committee would like this piece to also be placed on the consent agenda. And because once again, the mayor's due diligence and the other departments, this could possibly save us $500,000. So this particular piece here. So with that, we would like it on the consent agenda.
Thank you. This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Okay, item number 22 offered by Keith. This is a substitute offered as an amendment. Ordinance amending and or supplementing Title V Public Works, Chapter 52, Garbage and Refuse, Section 5214, Service Charge, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Keith?
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to poll my committee for time on this particular piece. May I?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilman Kamer? Councilman Fesco? Councilwoman Samples? Okay. And Councilman Hoke? Thank you. Thank you very much. This item will then be placed on time.
Okay.
Thank you. Time will be granted.
Item number 23 offered by Kamer. Ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into an agreement with Summit County for the boarding of the City of Akron prisoners and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer?
Thank you. Committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
Any objections? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Thank you. This is basically an agreement with Summit County Jail to, we're entering an agreement from a 25-year agreement to a 5-year agreement that ends December 31st, 2023, to house prisoners.
Thank you. The committee's report is favorable. The rules have been suspended. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Roll call.
Roll call. Freeman, Fusco, Hope, Kamer, Keith, Kilby, Milkovich, Neal, Amobian, Samples, Sims, Somerville, Swirsky.
Aye. One abstention. Samples.
Okay, just write that down next here. Okay, item number 24 offered by Neal. Ordinance authorizing the Director of the Department of Neighborhood Assistance to enter into a contract with the Catholic Youth Charities Community Service Corporation for the operation of the summer recreation program for youth with disabilities in order to support this successful and valuable program for the benefit of the disabled youth in our community and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Neal?
Madam Chair, the committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
Any objections? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Madam Chair, as read in, this legislation supports the Summer Fun Day Camp for children with disabilities, giving them access to a lot of fun activities to enhance their summer life experiences. I believe we've been supporting this for over 30 years, and with that, we ask for its passage.
Thank you. The committee's report is favorable. The rules have been suspended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Roll call and final passage. Freeman, Fusco, Hope, Kamer, Keith, Kilby, Milkovich, Neal, Amobian, Samples, Sims, Somerville, Swirsky.
We will now move into the portion of our meeting that we refer to as our public comment period. If you wish to speak to this council during this time, you may approach the podium. We're going to ask that you please sign in, then state your full name, spell your last name, and give us your address. You will have 3 minutes to speak to this body. Speakers are reminded that this is an official meeting, so remarks should be kept respectful and germane to council business. Speakers should refrain from making any personal attacks. Anyone who breaches decorum will be ruled out of order. Is there anyone here that would like to speak during our public comment period? You may approach the podium. press the button, the red button there?
My name is Betty Brazil, Brazil. My address is 161 Mustell Street. I was down here before concerning my basement. I want to thank everyone that did come out. The situation is not completely done, but I can say it's much, much better than before. And I want to thank everybody that assists me in doing that. But I do still have some more concerns about my home. The cracking is still getting larger, going towards my basement ceiling. It's getting larger. I have found more cracks in the foundation all around the house now. That is getting larger. The driveway is still a concern. The cracks are getting larger. And the groundhogs are now, raccoons is there digging up my lawn, is just digging up the lawn. We never had that before. Another thing I wanted to address was how long will we have to go through this until it's completed? I have heard 3 different versions of how long it would be. I heard 3 years, then I heard 2 years, then I heard the end of October. So I would like to speak to someone can help us understand the whole thing. You know, it's just a mess down there. The dust is getting thicker. I was in my backyard the other day, and I actually seen the dust coming towards me. I mean, you can actually see it. The house is full of dust. The windows, you can't clean anything. You can't sit on your porch. And I just need to talk to someone to see what can we do or how long it would be. I'm also concerned about, I'm hearing that they're going to store, I'm by the canal, so I have a problem down there. I also heard that they're going to store water down there, tons and tons of water. I don't really understand. I just need to talk to someone to assure me and help me to understand what's really going on about the water being stored down there until they get ready to use it, because I'm right by that canal, and I'm concerned about my home. I think that's just about it. I just, want to thank you for your time and your patience. Again, I appreciate everyone that assisted me. So I just need to know who to go to for the rest of my concerns, and how long would it be, and what can I do? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Rousseau. We're going to ask that after the meeting, if you can meet up with Mr. John Moore, and he'll be able to answer your questions, okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Cynthia Bell, B-E-L-L, 119 Mustell Street. Mr. Moore, you requested some items from us, and we will give those to you at the end of this meeting. I first want to thank Councilwoman Veronica Sims. She was actually the first responder when Ms. Brazil had the issue with the rodents, and she came on her own time on a Saturday morning, which we really do appreciate, because that kind of got things in motion for us. So to have that response was very, very important and very valuable to us. I think you all saw the beacon journal. So several things have kind of changed since that article came out, and the TV stations all visited us. Some of the changes were the noise level is decreased tremendously. I think we all are pretty shocked at the level of the noise that has decreased. In addition to that, the work schedule changed. When I get up at 4:30 in the morning and I leave at 5:30 and the work has already started, there's something wrong with that picture, and we have not heard it. I think they have reasonable hours now, and they're done at the end of the day. The bright lights are even gone, so at least some of the people at the end of the street don't feel like they're in the middle of a football field. They were using sprinklers to kind of contain some of the dust. They have moved to larger hoses, which has helped some. But on the days that it's extremely dusty and windy, there's just no hope. And as Ms. Brazil pointed out, you just watch the dust migrate from the end of the street up the street. It's amazing. And as you witnessed the picture on the front page of the Beacon, Mr. Caldwell's house is in need of immediate repair. There is no way that anyone can live in a home where the basement wall has 10 feet of dirt facing you. It's a scary thing, and I'm hoping that that will get immediate attention and expeditiously. And just a reminder of all the concerns that are being brought forth. They are sincere requests for restoration. We're not trying to bankrupt the city. We promise that. We just want our homes restored to a livable quality that we expect. And I think you would expect the same thing. And we bring those forward in peace and justice. One item I want to bring forward to Mr. Valley in terms of nuisance. At 180 Cahaga Street is a vacant warehouse. It was formerly Frank Cianciola and Sons. Every day we notice there are cats, multiple cats carrying rats from there. It's like a breeding ground, I do believe, and we're afraid that if it's not, attention is not made to that, that those rats are going to be moving into our resident homes. And with that, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Bell.
I'm Betty Zager, Z-A-G-E-R, 175 Oak Park Drive, Apartment 1, Akron, Ohio, 44302. If I seem disjointed, it's because I spent most of my time making a handout of 3 pages to the council, and Madam President saw me before the meeting, and she said, I'll take care of that. You're wonderful. Thank you so much. But anyway, I did spend a lot of time, and I spent my own dime. Well, now it's $1. But anyway, on my printing this out, so please read it. Running the city is really tough, and I found out more about that when I was a member of the Mayor's Citizens Institute, the first one, and we got to visit all the departments. And Akron is going through a crossroads, there's no doubt. Citizens' perceptions, positive perceptions, are crucial, I think, to any project. I am a member of ACLOFT. We're a small little fledgling group. We're trying to take the pulse of citizens and providing an additional voice for them. We are small, but we work hard. One of our things is to dispel rumors. There was a rumor around that the city was going to pay $500,000 to paint fire hydrants. Well, that's just ridiculous. And so went to the purchasing department, found out that there was not even a bid suggested or given. So they had to repost the possibility. And so we dispelled a rumor, we quashed it. So there's all kinds of rumors abounding out there, and we just tried to do our best to quash some of them. Our main focus right now is the gap between the citizens' perceptions and the actual progress of the downtown redevelopment. In the handout I gave council, I congealed 23 articles I've kept over the last 3 years about committees formed, progress, good and bad, and I've listed those in that handout to the council. The perceptions in the community are that countless meetings, committees, organizations, forums, community meetings are being held, but nothing is really getting done. Nearby, we see Cuyahoga Falls and the Portage Crossings, which was an immense project, which they finished and is in fine shape. They recently started their Front Street reopening, God bless you, and that is opened and it's dedicated, and so that's what we see. But here in Akron, we see vacant buildings, especially downtown, dust from the closed 1 mile stretch of the Interbelt, and many more announcements about study groups. The old Elvis quote about a little less talk, a little more action might be good here. The acronym brewery, that was a wonderful thing. There's lots of neon that's happy. People were out drinking and eating, and it was just wonderful. It was great to see that downtown. That was very positive. Especially the beer. Anyway, juxtaposed to that article, though, was this disturbing article that Akron's most common jobs pay too little, that the top 10 professions in Akron pay poverty wages. I just feel like we have to have some kind of a summary summary for the community to kind of summarize some things, and even if it's small, show some articles, or have some articles that show projects.
Ma'am, I'm sorry your
I know.
time is up.
I know. I'm
Thank you.
surprised I even made it. Thank you so much, Council and Council President.
Thank you, Mrs. Ziegler.
My name is Steve Nome, N-O-M-E. My address, 1928 6th Street, Cuyahoga Falls. I'm here about the retirees' insurance. And next weekend, the 83rd anniversary of Alcoholics Anonymous will be observed in Akron. As this Founders Day weekend approaches, I think this is a good time to take a look at their process and consider how it can be utilized in other situations. Even if you don't have a drinking problem, you've probably heard the phrase associated with this group. Hi, my name is, I am an alcoholic. A key to the success of AA is the need for alcoholics to admit to having a problem, not to blame others to justify their drinking problems. They don't say, hi, my name is, I have financial problems, my spouse doesn't understand me, my boss is a tyrant, etc., so I'm compelled to drink. That's not that they do. But it seems like the city's handling of the medical insurance for retiree spouses, the city wants to blame greedy retirees looking for Cadillac benefits and unions unwilling to accept the mayor's common sense efforts to stabilize the city's finances. But to me, common sense would indicate that it's not reasonable to raise the cost of spouses' insurance 40 times as much as the previous year. In the arbitration hearing with FOP, the arbitrator noted in his ruling that the city had acted less than honest in bad faith and made arbitrary unilateral changes in retiree health benefits. Until the city is willing to admit the problem which now exists is their own fault and is willing to honestly and openly address the problems working with the affected parties, a solution cannot be achieved. The city needs to start over, work with the unions and retirees so that retirees, their spouses and dependents can have the quality insurance they once had at a cost which is realistic and reasonable for both retirees and the cities. At the last council meeting, I again asked the three questions I'd asked at the previous meeting, and Council President Somerville told me I'd received an answer from the law department earlier in the day via email, and seemed annoyed that I did not know that. But I did not show up until 2:10 p.m. I was already at work. I work at a local school as a custodian and have to go in early on Mondays to appear at council. But when I read the law department's response, I was aghast at their evasiveness and disappointed that the council president didn't share the response at the meeting. The three questions, the deadline for filing an appeal, the city doesn't provide that answer. They don't provide that legal advice. Has the city filed an appeal? If the city's not appealing, when will the action be initiated to comply with the arbitrator's ruling? It involves matters that encompass privileged and confidential legal analysis or advice which go beyond the obligations required of government entities to provide information to the public and will not be answered. I said their answer was basically, we won't tell you anything, and it was a whole lot of baloney. And I'm done. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Nome. Is there anyone else?
Hello, Christian Sokolowski, S-O-K-O-L-O-W-S-K-I, 264 Store Avenue. I'm here tonight. I wasn't really prepared to give a speech, but I heard a lot for a little mentioned in the session, and I had to bring that up. The home next to me burned in 2012. It was left a mess. I cleaned up the mess so my kids wouldn't have to worry about glass from the broken windows and whatnot. In October of that year, it was raised, and I had interest in purchasing the land. At the time, I was going through some situations where that wasn't top of my priority list, but in 2015, I did approach UNDC with the Allot for a Little program to inquire about purchasing the land and was told they wanted to build a home. Well, I read UNDC's mission statement, and I'll note that they talk about $90,000 homes in blighted neighborhoods. I don't know if any of you know the 200 block of Store, but we're not a blighted neighborhood. We all work hard together as a team to keep our neighborhood nice. Furthermore, the average sale price of a home is about $125,000 from what I can gain from the auditor's records.
So fast forward a bit. I was told by Mr. Snyder that UNDC meetings, a publicly held business corporation, are not open to the public, which I find to be appalling, because I wanted to address that board and ask, why did you buy this property that doesn't fit your mission statement? So last year I contacted Mr. Neal, who's been helpful, and he put me in contact with Mr. Abraham Westcott, who I've not gotten a response from. This year, my neighbor, who is purchasing the house from the Adams, his grandparents, showed interest in purchasing the lot with me, therefore splitting it. It's a lot with a shared driveway. He runs a registered bed and breakfast under Airbnb and brings a lot of business to the city, a lot of international travelers, people from China, Japan. I've recommended them for my business. My little business, Akron Coating and Adhesives, which I'm the vice president of, I am going after business in China, and I'm going to bring clients to his bed and breakfast. Anyway, we write another letter, and we find out that Nez Homes wants to put a $250,000 home next to mine. Who's going to buy it? In a $125,000 neighborhood, if you know anything about real estate, you do not buy the most expensive house in a neighborhood. Furthermore, according to my own insurance, the replacement value of my house is over $300,000. So you can't even meet the level of the neighborhood, the grand old neighborhood we have, but you want to put up a house, and then on top of it, to be most egregious, you want to give that home a 15-year tax abatement. So someone that can afford a $250,000 house will not pay income tax for 15 years, not give it to our schools, to our fire, to our police, to anything. I find it appalling. I need it explained to me. That is all.
Thank you, Mr. Sokolowski.
Madam Chairperson and members of the council, I'm John Beatty, B-E-A-T-Y, at 2047 Wyndham Road. I'm sorry I'm late, but I think what this gentleman was just talking about has been on my mind as well. I'm aware that we often don't realize the racism in us and in our society, and I think equally we don't recognize the classism in ourselves and in our society. And it greatly distressed me to see what has been happening to a basically lower income African-American community close to Rosie the Riveter's entrance underneath us all here. In the paper, it was, I heard some of our neighbors talk about what was happening to them. I hope that the city will do for those who are low income, or moderate income, and African American what they do for the rich folks with a disposable income, and give them a 15-year tax break, give them more than market value for the distress that they have been going through and the destruction of their houses for the sake of something that is needed. But again, we find the city rolling over people who don't have that disposable income and may have difficulty in giving the same tax breaks that we give to the rich with disposable income. I think we need to be fair. What is good for the goose is good for the gander. I hope that the city will consider helping these folks out generously and justly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reverend Beatty. Anyone else wishing to speak during our public comment period? Seeing none, we will close our public comment period and go into our committee assignments. Rules, Councilman Keith.
2:30.
Budget and Finance, Councilman Freeman. Planning, Councilman Fusco. Public Service, Councilwoman Keith. Public Utilities, Councilwoman Samples. Public Safety, Councilman Kamer. Parks and Rec, Councilman Neal. Housing, Councilman Kilby. Health and Social Services, Councilman Amobian. Economic Development, Councilwoman Sims. Green Committee, Councilman Swirsky.
1 o'clock.
Anything coming before council? Councilman Neal?
I have a few announcements, but I do want to make a point of clarification, some information. I have from Ms. Ziegler the legislation that was passed regarding the fire hydrants, where we approved $175,000 a year for 2,000 fire hydrants. I believe we still have 6,000 left to paint. If we meet that contract, that comes up to $525,000. The 6,000 that we painted at somewhere around $70 a fire hydrant. We've already paid somewhere in the neighborhood of $425,000 to paint 6,000 fire hydrants. So I have that legislation for you, but also I appreciate there's a piece of legislation that's been sitting in council for a year to empower citizens to have input on legislation. I want to give you a copy of that. It would make you a part of the process, the decision process. Lastly, just want to make a few announcements. We're always proud to celebrate the success of our students. Because I have a business on North Hill and I drive by Jennings for, I believe it's Councilman Bruce Kilby. That's your Jennings High School? I want to celebrate Jennings High School, middle school, for winning the state championship for chess. Their program's only been around a couple years. They won a state championship. And then, of course, you know I bleed black and white. And so I want to celebrate Buchtel's girls track team. They didn't win the state, they came in second, but they did win the 4x2, and I think this may be their second year carrying that. And that was without one of their top runners. And we had other students from across the city that went down to the state and performed well, but I want to send out a special congratulations to them. And then this year marks a lot of important anniversary dates in our country's history. Of course, we know back in April 4th, we celebrated the 50th anniversary of the assassination of Dr. King. I was made aware, I didn't know, but I was made aware by one of Congressman Tim Ryan's aides who was coming to Will Christie Park tomorrow. If you know, I see you shaking your head, so if you know more information, please fill in for me. But tomorrow they will be celebrating what is now the 50th anniversary of the assassination of Robert Kennedy. Wednesday, yes, thank you, Wednesday. And that's going to be at 6 o'clock at Will Christie Park for those who want to come out. And then I'm thankful, also just want to announce for any Ward 4 residents or anybody in the city has this connecting Akron events that are taking place. And I found out that in Ward 4, unfortunately at the same time, but it's from 6 to 8, so we're going to be very busy. They have the Connecting Akron, Bring Your Bike Out to Lawton Street. Looks like barbecue games and a lot of fun activities. That's from 6 to 8 on Wednesday. So just wanted to share those announcements.
Thank you so much, Councilman Neal. Anything else coming before council? Before we do adjourn, we're looking to have a joint meeting with Akron School Board on Wednesday, June 13th. Do not have the time at this moment, but tomorrow we'll send out an email with the time, but that is Wednesday, June 13th. We have a motion for adjournment. Is there a second? All in favor signify by saying aye. The ayes have it.
Okay, this concludes the live broadcast of Akron City Council. Margot Somerville, President of Council, presiding.